Phil fails. Whoa, Phil fails. Please don't fail to click the like and subscribe button. By following the fool's journey, we all learn through failure. Thank you for being here. Enjoy the show. Welcome to Phil Fails. My name is Phillip Jones, and today my guest is Dave Cutherell. He is a spiritual dude, a woodworker, furniture maker, and mindfulness meditation teacher. Everybody say hi to Dave. You can wave at the camera.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah. I'm really excited to talk to you. You and I have a shared friend and mentor, I'm sure, in James Ochoa. Mm-hmm. And I've been really excited to spend time with you.
Likewise.
Yeah. Today Phil fails at mindfulness meditation. So this journey we'll be on today with Dave is one where I'm going to fail and learn how to fail at mindfulness meditation. Yeah.
Nice.
And we'll start out with the Phil Fails 5 questions. And I'll share a little bit about what failure means. I'm normalizing a change or refactoring failure in myself and hopefully giving other people a different frame for that.
Yeah.
I think in our culture historically, and maybe even now for a lot of folks, there's success over here that's like, got to get there. And there's failure over here, and it's like, don't want to be there.
Yeah.
And my intention is to change that from success over here, which is fleeting. It's mystical. Mm-hmm. You have it a little bit. You don't know what it really means. Maybe it's someone says you did a good job. Maybe it's you got a certain amount of money, but it's fleeting.
Yeah. And
there's iterative growth, and there's improvement and change over time, impermanence.
Yeah.
And over here, there's like not starting or discontinuing the journey. And everything in between there is failure, synonymous with growth or learning.
Yeah.
So it helps me start. It helps me kind of turn on the cameras and the microphones and the lights and get across from someone who I'm in awe of and really want to learn from and go on this fool's journey.
Yeah.
And be that.
Love it.
Be imperfect.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a part of that journey in the realm of mindfulness meditation.
Got it.
First question is, how would I fail at mindfulness meditation?
By not doing it or not starting. I think it's something that people think there's a way to fail once you start, and there's really no way to fail it. It's all about bringing attention. And everybody has the capacity to bring attention.
Yeah. So what are the kind of learning moments along the way of mindfulness meditation? What are the little pitfalls or follies that folks would experience?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people think that there's a right way to do it, and there is no right way to do it. Just as there's no right way to wake up and get out of bed. Some people talk about not being able to do it regularly. Some people talk about not being able to keep their mind on a focal point. Some people just talk about there's just something that comes up when they sit down to do it that turns them into doing something else, and so it's all about a journey about just bringing yourself back to yourself and coming home. Periodically throughout the day. Meditation helps create that practice, and that's, to me, the foundation of it.
When you say come home, what does that mean to you?
The present, means to me is people will talk about mindfulness as being in the present moment, right?
Be here now.
Be here now. Ram Dass, yeah, he was quite a dude. And, it's about what is present? You have to ask yourself, well, what does present mean? And to me, in the context of mindfulness, it means being at home in my body and in this moment with the entirety of this thing that I call my living existence. Mm-hmm. It includes my thoughts, my feelings, my body sensations, how I hear, how I talk. Yeah. It's that sense I think people get when they are in flow So it's just it's all about just the present moment.
Yeah. When I hear you say at home, I think I translate that in my mind to accepting or some level of comfort with.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of my teachers is a man named Henry Schuckman, and he's a Zen master as well as an English poet, and he's very articulate. And he had a teacher that was very, I would guess, call pedestrian. He was just a normal guy. He'd come in off the streets. He was a plumber, and he would teach him Zen. And he said there's three things that you have to learn when you learn meditation, and in particular he's talking about Zen, is the three things are allow, allow, and allow. So coming home is allowing this moment to be the way it is in my body in this moment.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, so to fail at this, you would either not start, which is like the ultimate, just like not even begin the journey. It would be thinking that there was a wrong way when you're sitting there. It'd be thinking that you have to do certain things in order for it to be kind of right or something, whether that was consistency, whether that was focal point, all those types of things.
Yeah.
All those things that get in the way of finding, or maybe they're the hurdles to finding that acceptance.
Yeah.
You imagine everybody goes through those thinking like, am I doing this right? And then those are the little, like, if you're playing a video game, like the big bosses as you go along to enlightenment.
Yeah. And it's for some people, it can't be that simple, so they create this thing in their minds that they think they need to be or be doing. And, it really is simpler than you might imagine. But simple things are not always easy. Yeah. And that's the part where it comes into having those moments, not only of self-doubt of whether I'm doing it right, but those moments of where, man, this sucks, I need to get out of here, which is in the Buddhist text aversion. And then there's this part about, I really like this blissing out, and I just want to bliss out all the time. So there's that interplay of all those emotions and feelings that we seek to find a balance in the middle of. But in the middle of any one of those, it can feel like we need to hit the eject button and get the heck out of here. Yeah.
I start thinking about the middle way, the Tao.
Exactly. Yeah. That is exactly it. And the Buddha calls it also the middle way because, if you look back upon his experience, he went through about 6 years of sitting under a tree trying to figure this stuff out. And then he went through another period of time where he thought it was all about just denying himself of all these worldly pleasures.
He was an ascetic.
Asceticism. Yeah. So he went through a long period of that, and then he came back into his final, where he landed in his teachings is the middle path or the middle way. It's also the Tao. Yeah.
Second question. What does success look like for a mindfulness meditator?
Oh, I think it's a real depth and a desire to experience life. It feels really good when you get there, and it feels like you're struggling when you're not. But the thing is, we're all already there. We just don't know it. So success is a little bit all of the above. It's a little bit of allowing that I'm already there, and it's also the knowledge that I could do a little bit more to get a little bit in a different space. I don't know if that answered the question.
It's always there. It's always there, and so it seems like. Well, I'm guessing here.
Yeah.
And I've had experience with mindfulness and meditation quite a bit in my life, thinking it might be a cure for my neurodivergence.
Yeah.
I think it's really helpful for it. Certainly has been. But I think of, since it's all already here, it's all around us. There's a mindset of mindfulness. It's something of refactor in our brain, or the thoughts are the ones that we give volume to. Is it something like that, or?
Yeah, I think it's what for me and what I see in others that go down this path. There's an element of stability of thought and stability of experience that comes with it. And like I've told you before, I love the neurodivergent label,
Yeah.
because otherwise I was labeled and diagnosed with AD and ADHD, and it just it's a very noisy world in my brain at times. But I can always come back now to a point that feels solid, although it might not be for long. But I still always have that point to come back to, and that's what mindfulness has really created. And that's what I kind of think of, if you want to call it success. It's just my ability to stay grounded more often and more regularly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to find that ground when things might be more chaotic, you have a pathway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Not breadcrumbs anymore, but like a solid, like this is how I go.
Yeah, it's one of the common things that I deal with, and I've talked with James quite a bit about, is just what we call overwhelm, which is when all the circuits start firing, and it's like a fight, flight, or freeze. And for me, it looks more like freeze or flight. And it's being able to just take a deep breath and refine myself where I'm at in that moment, and then everything's fine. I can just move on from here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. So the third question is, why do you do this? Yeah. How did you find yourself?
So I think the original idea. So I've been doing it north of 30 years. So that answer has evolved many times, and I've lost that answer a number of times over the years. Yeah. But I initially started because I read an article that it could help me control my drinking. And I was anxiety ridden for the most part, and I associated that with my drinking issues. That was 10 years before I quit drinking, so I got to say it didn't work that well in controlling my drinking. But it did give me a foundation to have a number of insights along the way that led me to where I am today. Why do I do it now? It's to me, it's embedded in my day at the start and at the middle and at the end, which are clear checkpoints when I can create a trajectory so that how I'm living that day, I don't get lost in the details. So I think of it as wake up and calibrate, and the meditation is the calibration.
The word that came to mind for me was ritual.
Yeah, definitely.
And I like the word ritual because it ties for me to something sacred.
Yeah, and it is. I think it's all sacred and divine. Our lives are so intertwined with that whole idea. There's so many traditions that bring that to light, and I love all of them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the fourth question is, what practices, what things would you suggest that I try over the next coming weeks and months to invite in some Dave Cutherell mindfulness meditation into my life?
Yeah, so the practices, I'll go back 20 years or so, and it was really basic. There's like 3 or 4 practices that were there, and since then in mindfulness it is just blossomed into at least a dozen different areas in how you can practice. So in essence, we can talk about maybe what your intentions are in the practice, but I always boil it down to attention and intention. So if you give those reflection time, you can guide yourself through your own practice over an entire lifetime. And I'll just give a few examples to maybe shed some light on that. One is you can use mindfulness to deal with physical pain. You can use mindfulness to deal with inability to focus. You can use mindfulness to deal with difficult emotions you're having.
Yeah.
In the addiction and trauma world, you can use mindfulness to help titrate those trigger points that send you off into the weeds. So it's kind of it's very broad. So it's more like, well, what do you want to get out of it? Yeah.
When the rubber meets the road, though, are you sitting down in
I
the room, or
I've developed a number of practices. So just a few. Most of my morning meditations are sitting. I also do yoga, kind of body movement. In the airport, and I'm a traveler, an adventurer. I love to get out. But what comes along with that for me is anxiety. I mean, it causes, which I've come to learn is really just feeling excitement, but it doesn't always feel that great, you know. And so, in the airports, people might look at that guy being me and say, boy, he sure is pacing a lot. But I think of it as walking meditation, and I do walking meditation the lengths of the airport, in which I'm just focusing on bringing my attention into all the things that are surrounding me, including the feelings I have in my feet walking, and any kind of air, being brushed against me, or any kind of thought that might be coming in that I might not be aware of. So
yeah,
a lot of ways to do it.
Yeah, sitting.
Walking,
doing poses,
standing,
yoga.
And I also tend to think of anything that like fly fishing, when you're casting the line and you're watching the movement go back for, and you every little thing, every little piece of movement in your body is being directed towards making the perfect loop, and then it lands, and it lands perfectly whether you catch anything or not. Is like it's like a score.
That's meditation.
That's meditation to me, because you're in that moment, you're in flow, you're in movement, you're absorbed in what you're doing, and there's so many ways to do that. Dance, yoga.
I thought of bike riding.
Trail running. Trail running for me was very much a meditation, because if I take my eye off the trail, that little roots, I'm going face plant, man.
Been there.
Me too. And that's the thing that brings me back to, I got, and your mind's wandering, or my mind's, going off into the problems of the day or whatever I got to do. And then, bring it back.
It'll let you know real quick. Be here now. Yeah.
Exactly.
Keep your eyes on this trail.
Exactly.
Oh, man. I love that, because it's not, sit down in a dimly lit room with no music on, and do that for 15 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour.
Yeah.
It's like, how do we invite a mindfulness into all of our experiences, everything we do? And I love that you bring up flow state. I've read up on Mahai Csikszentmihalyi, and
I'm listening to his book right now. Yeah,
really good. Yeah, flow. Really
Finding
good.
Flow.
Yeah.
That book is awesome.
And this.
And I'm impressed you can pronounce his name.
Oh, it took me a while. I think I had someone say it over and over again. It was like Mahai Csikszentmihalyi. It's a scrambled egg there. Those last letters, and no disrespect to anybody.
Yeah, no. I'm just impressed.
Yes, thank you. So, question number, where are we at? We're already on 5, darn it. I had this question, and I was hoping we were at the end of it, because maybe I'll just make it 6. I can do that.
Yeah, we can keep going. There's no magic number here.
Yeah.
I'll talk all day about this if you let me.
In all your years of practice and study, who have been the mentors or the people you've looked up to, or given you support along the way?
That's such a great question, because there's so many out there, and there's mentors that I can connect with, like through their online teachings or their book teachings, that I might not ever know or talk to personally. There's teachers out there that I might have a spiritual connection with and a discussion with that might have been ancestors.
Yeah.
There might be a teacher that I actually follow and go to be in their presence. and actually have interactions with them.
Yeah.
And then there's my inner teacher that I get to talk to all the time that helps me make the right decisions every day. So with that context around the word teacher, I could go into quite a few different areas there. But the ones that, one of the godfathers is a man named John Kabat-Zinn.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of John Kabat-Zinn. I told you, I think, on the phone that I did his mindfulness-based stress reduction program.
Yeah.
That was one of my introductions. Headspace was also one of them, but going through the MBSR, and John Kabat-Zinn was really a real deep dive for me. I did the 8 weeks, 45 minutes a day, writing, all that stuff.
And he's the real deal, and that's the real deal course you took, the MBSR. So I actually went to a week-long retreat with him and Saki Santarelli, his kind of right-hand person, back in 2012, I'm thinking. It was about north of 10 years ago. And at the time, I was just wanted to go see him, But the topic of it was, I kind of phrased it, so you think you want to be an MBSR teacher, come hang out with me for a week and let me tell you what it's all about, and then you can decide. Yeah. And that's what it was. So at that time, I left there, and I was going, I'm just not ready to be a teacher, and now I am, and that's why I'm going into it, but I always carry this memory. But the experience I had there was just classic mindfulness challenge, because my son was heavy in his addiction, and which I asked him the other day, I says, can I share this publicly? And he says, sure, anything that'll help anybody. But he was in his addiction. He was a heroin addict, and he was just really acting out. And I thought I was going to go to this mountaintop meditation experience with the guys, John Kabat-Zinn and his and I thought I was just going to bliss out and have a great time. Well, as soon as I got there, it became really evident that I couldn't get any of this out of my mind, and I was having horrendous recursive thoughts around all the stuff that could happen to my son. And I couldn't get my son, at the time he was 17 years old, I couldn't get my son out of my brain. Actually, I think he was 16 or 17 at the time. And so we went into this period at the midweek till Friday of total silence. So I call my wife and his mom, and I said, I'm going into a silent period. I can't really talk for the next 2 days, but I'll check in. So at noon on Friday, bing, get a text. It's from my wife at the time. And she goes, our son is, no, she says, give me a call. And at that time, anytime that happens, it wasn't good. So I call her. He had been arrested for heroin possession. And so, but I had just experienced this whole week of mindfulness, and that was the most peaceful, most thoughtful reaction period I ever had. We went home. We knew we had him in the bag, so to speak. He wasn't going anywhere, and he pretty much had to agree to a healthy path out of there, and then we found him a recovery center to go into, and he went into it. And he, for that period of time, it brought him back out of his addiction. But it was just that clarity of thought and that experience that really started to keep me engaged. I knew it was there. I just wasn't ready to teach it at that particular time. Yeah. So
John Kabat-Zinn.
Yeah.
Who? Any other comes to mind?
Yeah, thanks for that, and thanks for the little divergence on the story.
I love that. I love that story.
Yeah, so my two teachers right now in the certification program I'm in are Jack Cornfield and Tara Brock.
Oh yeah,
they are OG all the way. They've been
Spirit Rock.
Spirit Rock. They have been doing the deal. Jack's at Spirit Rock. Actually, Tara's at in Washington
or somewhere.
In Washington, outside of DC.
Yeah,
and she's Insight Meditation Society as well. So those two, I mentioned Henry Schuckman. He's relatively new on my scene. I've been doing more of a dive into Zen and Tao the last couple of years. And who else?
Shauna Shapiro.
Yeah, I've followed her. I would call myself a real kind of a podcast and meditation junkie. I have listened to dozens of teachers on Insight Timer over the years.
Oh, yeah.
And
I'm a big Thich Nhat Hanh fan. Pema
Thich Nhat
Chodron.
Hanh, yeah, Pema Chodron. They're all.
When I was younger, Eckhart Tolle for a while.
Yeah, the Fire Now and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much out there, and for me, it's been an exploration of traditions, and I've explored Buddhism in depth. I've explored the Tao and Zen Buddhism, which is basically Buddhism plus Tao equals Zen, if you want to think of it that way, because Zen is the tradition of Buddhism coming through China and picking up the Tao along the way. So, I've studied some Hinduism. I've studied Christian mysticism. So, I think all faiths have really good depth to them. And they each one in their own way has that culture's imprint on what this thing called suffering and alleviating suffering is. Yeah. I love them all. I don't really find one teacher. I think maybe it's part of the ADD, the neurodivergent, as we say.
Yeah.
The neurodivergent mentality is that we seek a lot of different views, and we tend to coalesce them way better than a linear thinker might.
Yeah. And I like to think it's kind of the same message through a different face and through different words, and I need to hear it in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
I've often thought of there's this group of people that have found this body of wisdom somewhere, and they're bringing it back. Some of them in cups, some of them in buckets, some of them bringing whole swimming pools full or tanks full, and they're giving it to everybody. But I think people found that wisdom somewhere.
Yeah.
And I hear it. I know it in my body when it's true, and I follow those people, whether it's Byron Katie or whether it's
she's good.
There's just so many of them.
Yeah.
I like Michael Singer.
Yeah.
Soul.
Kelly, Adyashanti. There's so many people out there that have their take on it, and for the longest time, I kind of felt like I just needed more takes. And now I'm in the sense of I'm really just resting in my own take, and and I don't have to seek it so much. I found that it's easier for me now to pick a few and go deep with them rather than to do the sampler platter approach. But God knows I've done lots of sampling.
I think of that quote, that koan. If you see the Buddha on the side of the road,
kill him.
Kill the Buddha. Yeah, that way of, your master is not out here outside of you. It's inside of yourself.
It is.
Your own guides are inside, and cultivating intuition and finding that voice within yourself is a big part of the journey.
And and I also advocate and am enthusiastic around different modalities of therapy, because it's a different way to explore. My most recent one has been internal family systems.
Oh yeah.
That is really helped me find, my inner voice, and which inner voice is which, and and how to talk to amongst my inner voices, so that we have a little, kind of a come to Jesus agreement, as my dad would say, and kind of get some agreement on how the day's going to go.
Doing that parts work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's all kind of intertwined. But I think once once I've had all this chance, and all I hope to impart, as a teacher, is just to create space so everybody can have their own chance. It's not me about teaching them or giving them the words; they have to experience them themselves.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you can point at the moon. Don't focus on the finger.
Exactly.
Find some way to get them to focus on that moon together.
Yeah.
Look at the moon together.
Exactly. It's the experience. It's not the pointing. Yeah.
Experience is my teacher.
Yeah, exactly.
And final question is, if you could kind of think of, oh goodness, what questions are you asking yourself these days? I was gonna ask a question of like, what question would you ask Tara Brock or Cornfield or one of these kind of leaders, but we've already come to the conclusion that like the questions you have rest inside of yourself, and I wonder what kind of questions you're asking.
nine times out of 10, I'm more interested in what other people are asking. So I sit back a lot in the Q&A sessions with the idea that their question will help me out as much or more than my question will.
Mm-hmm.
So, and part of the Zen training is the beginner's mind perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's underneath that for me is two things. One is you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And the second thing that was pointed out to me at a very recent event is some things you don't need to know. So in that way, the questions don't come as often, but they do come. And then when they do, I ask them. But there's it's almost like we'll see. It's not like I never get like a list of questions anymore.
Right.
I used to, I was very cognitive and very ideating, and I just like come down with 20 questions and I stress over which one to ask. And now it's more like, let's just sit back and see what comes. And, I would just ask them, is how to communicate well with their students. I'm more focused on, how to present material so that it's received in a loving and accepting way. So that I don't filter my bullshit on top of it, so that they can have as clean of experience as they can, and also how to be respectful of trauma in this world, because everybody has been traumatized in some form or fashion, and how do we respect that, and how do we kind of tiptoe around, in the same fields with it. So, yeah.